Hi everyone. In this short demo, I'll show you how BadZure can read a YAML file, configuration file, provision identities, resources, Azure resources, and then inject attack paths so you can use it to run purple team exercises, to explore cloud abuse techniques, and to test or validate detections. Um, as a reminder, this video is accompanied by a blog post, and the link to the blog post should be on the description. So we have Batcher and we have a configuration file. And in this configuration file, we are defining what we want Batcher to create, a bunch of identities and groups and administrative units, and as well as Azure resources, in this case, Key Vault, storage account, and virtual machines. And finally, here are the attack paths that we want created. These attack paths are three. On the first attack path, we'll create an app registration that has high privileges, and then we'll create a user that is the owner of this app registration, so creating this attack path. The second one will, in this case, create a storage account, and this storage account will contain a container that has a certificate for an app registration, and this app registration has a high privilege role. And finally, a random user will have access to this storage account, creating this attack path. And finally, our last attack path is we'll create a user with a VM contributor role, and within the scope of this role is a VM. This VM has a managed identity. The managed identity has a role that allows it to read secrets from a key vault. And this key vault actually contains a secret for another app registration that has a high sensitive role. Those are the three attack paths that we'll create with BadZure, and those are described on the configuration file. So what we'll do is simply call the tool to start building our environment, and this should take a few minutes. So I'm gonna pause the video here so we don't have to wait and come back when it's done. Okay, and we're back. I actually had to run it twice because I ran into an issue. But okay, that's okay. And then we can see now how our tenant is populated with a bunch of users, groups, assignments, app registrations, as well as resources, including VM, storage accounts, and key vaults. Okay, and the output of Azure actually gives us the details of the attack path. So we created three attack paths. This service principal of use, we have the ID, and this is our initial access user. For the second one, this is initial access user, and for the third one. So let's analyze the first one, and let me bring up here this ID, and then we can open the Terraform file to get a little bit more details on what was created. So this is the app that was created, Code Forge Rush. Let's take a look at the app, and we will see. We search for this app here. We see that this app has a privilege role, this graph API role. Oh, actually, let me go back. Oh, never mind. Yeah, this is an Entra ID role, right? Of course. So this app has an owner, and the owner is that initial access user. Okay. And this app actually has a privilege role. And what we need to do to see it is go back to the privilege roles, and we'll search for that role. Bear with me. And we actually see that the app does have that role. So now we've created that first attack path where that if that user is compromised because he's the owner of the app, he can add a credential and then take over the service principal and abuse these permissions. All right, let's take a look at the second attack path. The second attack path has this ID, and let's look at this ID here first in Terraform. And here are the details, and this is the app related, and this is the this is the storage account. So let's have a look at the storage account in Azure. So we don't want this, we want this. Oh my God, one sec. So if we search for this storage account, we will find that this storage account has a container. And this container has actually a private key for this cyber manager. And what is this cyber manager? And before we go there, if we look at this container, we look at these permissions, we'll see that there is a user who has let this load. We see that this user Darren has a storage blob data reader. And finally, if we search for this app registration, we'll see that this app registration does have a certificate created. So this was all done by BadZure. And if we look at the API permissions, it has the mail.read API permission. So once again, we've created that second attack path where if the user is compromised, they can read the storage account, download the private keys, authenticate as service principal, and start exfiltrating emails. And finally, the last attack path. This is the attack path. It all starts with a VM. Actually, let's just go straight to the VM. Okay, so we'll search for this VM that was created by BadZure, and we can see that there's a VM here. And this VM, we can see that it has a managed identity, and this managed identity has key vault contributor role against this key vault. And this key vault actually has a secret. And the secret is for the Systream Sky application. And we can see that BadZure actually created the secret. And you can actually see it here. And if we search for this app registration, we'll see that it does have a high or a sensitive privilege permission, which is files.read.all, which would allow the service principal to obtain OneDrive files. So this is a demo, how we've created attack paths with BadZure against our lab environment. And after we do our test, we can simply destroy our environment and everything that BadZure created will be deleted. So that was it for today. Thanks, everyone.